ordinary and have something interesting all in the same? Come check me out, Dave's Pop Culture Podcast.
All right, so we're back from the bathroom break, ready to jump into Varsity Blues. The movie begins, and I love the score in the background here. And we're going to get a voiceover from Jonathan Moxon, played by James Van Der Beek. Let's listen to a clip here to start us off.
In America, we have laws. Laws against killing. Laws against stealing. And it's just accepted that as a member of American society, you will live by these laws. In West Canaan, Texas, there is another society which has its own laws. Football is a way of life. That's me as a kid playing ball with my best friends. I'm Jonathan Moxon, but most people call me Mox. As a boy growing up in West Canaan, Texas, you never question the sanctity of football. You just listen to what the coaches said and tried as best as you could to win. Win at all costs.
JD, what do you think of this intro here from Mox?
I really appreciate this intro, and anytime a movie sort of gives us this like voiceover introduction, it's, you know, maybe you can call it lazy screenwriting, but I think it gives a good sort of we get to feel close to our main character instantly. Like he's talking to us. Like now I feel like he gives a damn about us and he's telling us about his story and we get to see where he goes. Like it gives us a good in with him.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. Then we cut to Mox, who goes downstairs and his dad says, "Did you pray for some playing time, son?" And Moxon says, "I just spoke to Jesus upstairs." He's talking about his little brother Kyle, who's strapped to a cross. We have a car horn. He looks outside, and we meet Billy Bob, who says, "Hey, Mox, you skinny bitch, let's ride!" Billy Bob has a pet pig named Bacon, and he's eating bread that he's dipping in peanut butter and then drinking the syrup. Inside the truck cab, Wendell's in the back of the cab with the pig. JD, first impression here of Billy Bob, played by the late Ron Lester.
Billy Bob nails it right out of the park for that kid in high school.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's bread. I think it's pancakes that he's dipping in.
Are they pancakes? Okay, I thought it was just like a loaf of bread.
I don't know what he's doing. It's pancakes, bread. He's got the peanut butter. He's got the syrup. This guy knows how to breakfast. He's the guy that you want to follow not to the end zone, but to the brunch buffet.
I feel like somebody from McDonald's watched this and they were like, "Oh my God, brilliant. McGriddle. We'll just add everything together."
You're onto something.
So they pull up to Lance Harbor's house next, who's played by the also late Paul Walker. He exits the house wearing his patented number 7, which you'll see a lot of that throughout the movie. JD, thoughts on Paul Walker? And what's your favorite Paul Walker movie?
Dude, this probably is my favorite Paul Walker movie.
Okay.
I think he's a fantastic actor. I think he's underrated, and Fast and the Furious definitely gave him a household and shoehorn name.
Yeah.
But my goodness, he's always Lance Harbor to me, in my heart.
Yeah,
what a great name.
Yeah, he is great in this, but I'm going to go, I do love Fast and the Furious. That's a guilty pleasure of mine. I know some people are like, really? Come on, Fast and the Furious. I do like that movie. All those movies, actually. I like him in a movie called Running Scared. One of my favorite Paul Walker movies.
Oh, I remember that one. That's a good one.
All right, they pick up Tweeter last. He's our resident loose cannon. I guess you have to have one of these guys on every team. I mean, I had one in high school. We definitely had one in college. He's played by Scott Conn. Let's listen to our first line from Tweeter, and it's one of my favorite lines of the film.
I've been up since crack of dawn, and I had to ask you a question. What is up, Carrie Ann Baker? Darcy's friend. Oh my God. She got this look. Like I just fell out of the I'm gonna suck your dick tree and hit every branch on the way down.
Relax, now you gotta focus.
I can't focus. I need to get some ass. I need to hit some ass. I'm about to fuck your pig. How about that? Give me a kiss.
JD, what do you think of his dick-sucking tree that he speaks of here?
Yeah, he's such a quotable character, and this is such a quotable movie.
Yeah.
And I think that the writing in this movie goes sort of, unappreciated in that in this line alone, we know so much about who he is, and what he wants.
Yeah.
Football for him is not about scoring touchdowns. It's about catching that girl falling down that tree and she's hitting every branch on the way down.
Yeah, he talks a lot about women throughout the movie. We will come back to him as we go. And then the guys pull up to the school and everyone gathers around their vehicle. They're actually like cheering them into the parking lot. I mean, these guys really are like gods in this small town. I will say, though, this did make me roll my eyes a little bit, JD, because this is just not realistic. Like, nobody's sitting around like waiting to cheer them into first period.
That was not my high school experience.
No. We cut to a pep rally, and I love this part. The way that just, if you pay attention to Kilmer and just some of his mannerisms, like the crowd's going nuts, and he just puts up his hand and everybody just shuts up immediately. And our first line from him is, "Tonight we play Bingville. Tonight we beat Bingville." He rallies up the crowd and then introduces Lance Harbor, who tells the crowd about his dream, and it woos the girls. We cut to Mox, who's talking with his girlfriend Julie, who's actually Lance's little sister, and he just comments that, man, Kilmer has made him a god. JD, 2 new characters here. Your thoughts on Coach Bud Kilmer, played by John Voight?
Yeah, I love his Nick Nolte and Blue Chips approach to coaching.
Yeah.
Like, that's all I can think about. They look alike, they dress alike, they act alike. Bud Kilmer, he's a staple in the community, and he raises his hand and you silence yourself.
I feel like if Mike Ditka had coached high school football, he would be Bud Kilmer. That's what I think.
I think that's a very fair, yeah.
And at some point in my life, I'd like to talk to John Voight and do my best Will Ferrell impression of him and just say, the only thing you ever did was make a hot daughter. That's it. That's it, you bag of bones. So we cut to or actually, let's talk about Amy Smart. I almost forgot about Julie Harbor, who is Box's girlfriend. What do you think about Amy Smart? I was definitely in love with this girl when I was in high school.
Yeah, she never did it for me.
How dare you?
I dare, sir. I dare. I don't know. I've never been a fan of Amy Smart. It has nothing to do with her looks, as you are apparently judging her on. I just as an
Go ahead.
What?
I said it was her mind.
Oh, her mind. Okay.
Yeah.
Liar. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of her. There's certain actresses that I just they grate me, and her performance in this movie is just so, her accent, her mannerisms, the way that she treats her boyfriend for simply being named starting quarterback. She just hates on him for being successful.
So we cut to the Bingville game. Billy Bob is in his locker. I apologize ahead of time for saying the line, but I'm going to say it anyway. He says, as I walk through the shadow of death, I feel no faggots from Bingville. He walks past Wendell, and this is Mox doing this, and he's played by Eliel Swinton. He tells Mox to stay ready. You never know when your number is going to get called. And then he goes over the tweeter, who shows him the new tweeter end zone dance. And then we see Lance get his knee shot up. JD, this is a real issue in high school, college, and pro sports. Getting shot up before or during games with pain medication, cortisone shots, things like that. Let's talk about it a little bit. Did you ever have anything like this? I know I did.
So in college, I definitely was spoon-fed lots of Vicodin and Valium before games.
Okay.
in high school, I was in pretty good health, so I never had to experience it. But I did know that we had a number of players with their shoulders or their knees or their ankles even that needed a little boost for game day.
Yep, ankles for me.
Is that was your
Yeah. Bad ankles, unfortunately. So, yeah, I dealt with that a little bit. I don't think I had that in college. College, it was more like, hey, sniff one of these smelling salts. This will get you ready for the game. Stupid stuff. Just asinine.
You were on the wrong side of that then.
So
the trainer had a bag full of Vicodin ready to pass out that you needed to be on the right list to get. Okay, so audience, any of you that have played sports, I would take Vicodin before a game and I would have no ill effects.
Okay.
I don't know. Some people would. We had a certain kick returner that would. I'm going to stop that story.
I know exactly who it is. All right.
Not going to tell that story. I love that guy too much to tell that story.
Mox sits on the bench and he's reading a book while pretending to read his playbook. A ball gets thrown out of bounds and Mox picks it up and throws it to the ref on a frozen rope. And it's like a good 40 yards away. The ref catches it right in the gut and he's like, ugh. Kilmer looks over at Mox and sees that he's reading a book. And then we cut to Billy Bob, who gets knocked out from a concussion. He gets brought back to by smelling salts. And of course, they throw him right back into the game. The trainer asks him how many fingers he's holding up. And Mox cuts him off and says, it's got to be multiple choice. Billy Bob, the man's holding up some fingers here. True or false? True? And then they lift him up and he goes back into the game. So the game ends and the Coyotes win 35-17. And on the way to the locker room, Kilmer confronts Mox about the book and tells him if his daddy hadn't played his guts out for me, I'd cut your ass. JD, thoughts on the first game?
So I'm going to go ahead and go a different direction in this and comment on the fact that he's reading Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut.
Nice catch.
And this is the third time that we see the cover of the book, a book that I own 2 or 3 copies of on my bookshelf. And audience, I have 2 quotes from this book tattooed on my body. It's a fantastic book by a great author. And I think that the parallel between what Johnny Moxon is going through and his arc is very comparable to the story in that novel.
What are the quotes?
So the quotes are, everything was beautiful and nothing hurt, which I have tattooed on my wrists.
Okay.
And then, so it goes, which I have tattooed on my bicep.
What does so it goes mean?
It's used ironically in the novel anytime somebody dies. And I think, like somebody dies and the only response that you can say is, so it goes. I mean, what else is there in life? Like, you have no control over things. And if something goes good or bad, whether it's something you want or something you detest, you just have to sometimes dig your heels in and acknowledge, so it goes.
Okay, I don't wear heels. Let's continue, though. Don't ever bring up my cross-dressing again. In the locker room, Kilmer goes around praising the players. He goes to Wendell, who comments about him, I'm dog tired, coach. It's my knee. Kilmer says, the only pain that matters is the pain you inflict. Lance gets some more pills from Tweeter, and then Tweeter comments on Kilmer being an asshole, and then says he's getting fucked up tonight. We cut to the party. Billy Bob's feeding his pig. This is one of my favorite lines from Billy Bob. And she's like, is that a boy or a girl? Billy Bob says, of course he's a boy. Look at the size of that sausage. Tweeter walks by with a wiffle bat, and he sings, she broke my heart, so I broke her jaw. They run into an old alumni who says he's class of 89. And Tweeter asks, are you ready to be on America's Funniest Home Videos? The guy's like, absolutely. So he has him put a flower pot on top of his head, close his eyes, and then he tells him to think real hard. And then say, I'm stupid, I'm about to get hit in the nuts. He, of course, cracks him in the nuts, the flower pot breaks, and then Tweeter turns to the camera and says they should change the name of the show to America's Funniest Shots in the Nuts. After that, we cut to Billy Bob, who's about to call some dinosaurs. Tweeter looks at him and says, Billy Bob's about to puke. He rushes into the laundry room, barfs into the dryer, where Lance is next to him, banging Darcy, for lack of a better word. And he wipes his face off and says, if y'all are hungry, I left a few hot dogs in there. JD, what do you think of this wild party? And also we'll talk about Darcy in a second.
So my high school experience was much different than this. This wild party was something I was never invited to. But the calling of dinosaurs line, like I don't remember this from when I was younger. And now, is it just because of his heaving before he pukes? Is that the calling of dinosaurs?
I have no idea. I would just imagine it's from like when you puke, you're like, so it just sounds like you're calling a dinosaur.
Yeah, that seems like a How I Met Your Mother type of a line.
Yeah, that would fit right in with that show. Okay, and then let's talk about Darcy. We will get into more of her later, or lack of her in some cases.
Hey-o.
This is the first ever role for Allie Larder in a movie, probably what she's best known for as well. What do you think of her here as Darcy?
She is very Southern and very seductive, and I think that, you know, from where we are introduced to her as an actress, as a character, and to where she goes is like a great leap in her art. Like I think we do a disservice to her at this point, but it pays dividends later on.
Okay. So we cut to practice. Mox gets to go in for a few reps. For those of you nerds out there, reps is code for he went in for a couple plays. Let's listen to a clip here.
You used to hammer my ass the exact same way 27 years ago.
Hell, it's good for them. Shit, them boys is having the time of their lives. No doubt about it.
Oop de oop, left on one. Ready, break!
Let's go, Big Mox! Shift!
What the hell kind of offense is that? Kimmer gonna eat his ass. Watch this.
See? Jesus' name, Mox, what are you doing? What kind of Lulu formation you pulling?
It's a secret.
Oh, it's a secret. Your dummy O's can't even run a simple draw. And you got secret formations? Shit for brains, this ain't no fucking saying loud.
It's called the oop-de-oop.
Oh, it's the OPU. OPU.
Mississippi Valley State's averaging over 40 points a game with this offense. Overload the defense on the strong side, burn them one on the other.
You got a bad attitude and you don't listen. We do things around here my way. You understand that? You think you're in some fancy school? Bullshit. You show me the kind of smarts makes me wonder if you know the difference between a sneeze and a wet fart. You're going to be second string all your life, boy.
Man, Kilmer loves to bag on your boy, Sammy. Been on him all season.
Oopty-oop. Give me a break. Oopty-fucking-oop. Give me a break.
I stood up to it. So will he.
JD, what do you think of this scene? Kilmer kind of ripping into him.
I'm going back to my high school days, and we definitely had a second string quarterback that ran the dummy offense in the same way. And it was kind of funny, you know, and we had a high strung coach in the same way that Bud Kilmer was, who just wanted to rip off that quarterback's face, eat it, and then vomit it back up on his corpse.
Definitely a lot of coaches like him. This is very spot on. We cut to the family barbecue. Mr. Harbor comments that Lance's younger brother is being held back a year so he'll be bigger for Frost tryouts. This is a very young Jesse Plemons.
Yes, it is.
Who would later star in the hit show Friday Night Lights, which Varsity Blues is loosely based on, as Landry Clark. And he's a pretty big actor now who's been in a lot of great movies. It sounds like you did catch it, or at least I'm sparring that memory real quick.
Yeah, no, I saw him in the background and I was like, is that Meth Damon from Breaking Bad? That's who that's how I know him, is Meth Damon from Breaking Bad.
Okay, I loved him in Breaking Bad too. He's great there. Mr. Moxon says, yeah, you know, Kyle had that ankle injury, but he's ready now. We cut to Kyle, who looks like a monk, and his mom comments he's very spiritual. Mr. Harbor gets up and says, toss me one, son. Makes a little hook route, catches the ball. Mox's dad gets up and says, now throw it to me, son. He gets up and misses the throw. Guy's like, I guess bad hands just run in the family. Mox's dad says, if Kilmer weren't such a prick, my boy would be starting QB. They get into a pissing contest where the dads eventually put beer cans on top of their heads. Lance nails it, but Mox is kind of getting ready to throw. They're all talking, and they keep calling him chicken and babak, and there's like spit flying everywhere. And then finally his dad's like, fire that fucking pigskin. And he turns around and just blasts him right in the nose. The scene kind of ends. My favorite part, though, I don't know if you've ever caught this, but as he's rolling around on the ground, you can hear Mr. Harper in the background go, he'll be all right. Just get him a beer. What'd you think of this scene?
No, I love it, and we definitely get a boomerang of the scene later. And I don't want to spoil it, but was it an accident? Was it intentional? What is the exact control that the Mox has over his spiral?
Yeah, he seems to be pretty accurate. We're in the classroom next, and we got some penis, vagina, vagina, vagina. Miss Davis, the teacher, very good-looking lady. I'm sure she's, I'll just leave it there. I don't know what else to say. She turns to the class and asks for a few slang expressions of the male erection. Let's listen to the answers. JD, do you have a favorite slang word?
Ooh, I don't know. Purple-headed yogurt slinger is a pretty good one.
That's usually my go-to. I also like the hydro. That one always gets me.
So is Napoleon Dynamite, is that whole movie a reference to Varsity Blues on Pedro?
I like your accent there. Yes,
Thank you.
it could be. Who knows about Pedro?
Was that also an MTV movie, if I'm not mistaken?
God, it might have been. Billy Bob exits the bathroom, and on his way to the seat, he passes out on the floor. So in the next scene, Kilmer enters the nursing room. All this stuff makes me laugh because this is so true about high school football coaches. He enters the room, looks at the nurse, and says, "Go on now." And she just walks right out like he owns the place. Kilmer plays off his injury and says, it's just your nerves. Don't worry about it. You're going to play every minute of that game on Friday. Billy Bob's like, the nurse, she don't think I should play. Kilmer's, she shouldn't have a division title to win now, does she? I'm going to ask you one time. Are you ready to go? He's just like, yeah. So we cut to the game. They're trailing Greenville. Billy Bob is on the sideline. He's getting oxygen. They get a stop on defense. They get the ball back. Last chance to win the game. Kilmer literally picks him off the bench and forces him into the game. And right as the ball is snapped, he passes out. Lance gets hit and immediately screams and clutches his knee. You can hear a pin drop. It's so quiet in the stadium. And Billy Bob gets up and checks on Lance and starts crying. He's like, please be okay. We cut to Mox, who gets handed a ball. And the announcer comments, now we're looking at Moxon. Geez, you've taken more snaps than he has. One of the guys in the crowd says, Moxon isn't worth the Charmin Extra Soft he wipes his butt with. His first pass in, Moxon drops back and completes a 40-yard bomb to Tweeter. His dad goes nuts in the stands. And then he has to clock the ball next, which means stopping the clock. And he hits the mascot right on the nose. And then they cut to the dad who's cheering, and then he rubs his nose he can do that whenever he wants. And the clock stops at 35 seconds left. Mox can't figure out what play they're calling, so he just makes up his own play, which ends up being a throwback pass to himself from Wendell. And he scores and wins the game. And Kilmer looks pissed on the sideline that he didn't run the right play. JD, thoughts on this scene?
Yeah, it's definitely there's a lot that goes on here, and we're hinted at throughout early in the movie that Moxon is a capable quarterback. He has the arm, he has the accuracy. If he was in a competition, what was that, the punt, pass, and kick competition that they used to do?
I won one of those. Not saying.
Did you?
Not bragging. Yeah, I sure did.
Congrats to you.
Thanks, man.
I feel like Moxon would have done quite well. And if you recall the scenes early on, I feel like Moxon, when they show them as kids, is playing a commanding. He's playing a commanding role on the field, and he's taller than Lance Harbor. I think that they're alluding to the fact that he has gumption. He has the skills to do it, and boom, instantly shows it.
Yeah. What did you think of the guy in the stand, though, that talked about his extra Charmin that he wipes his butt with? That line made me laugh so hard.
Yeah, I think, from a writing standpoint, that does a great job of creating a juxtaposition of suggesting that Johnny Moxon comes from a comfortable house where that he can afford the Charmin extra,
Okay.
but that he also is incapable of any sort of rough sandpaper butt. I guess I don't know. Maybe
I kind of picture
extra Charmin.
Tweeter is probably a 2-ply guy, would be my guess. He's a little rough on the
2-ply
edges.
guy. That's another shirt that we need to trademark. 2-ply guy.
The Harbors get the bad news from the doctor that Lance is going to be out minimum year and a half, if ever. The doctor says, "Look, hey, I'm surprised that boy never had any issues because I removed a hell of a lot of scar tissue from his knee." Kilmer immediately was like, "He never said anything to me." And he looks back at Mox right away and is like, "Don't you fucking say anything." And then he orders him to go home as well, which I find strange because he's not part of the family. And Mox is dating the sister, but he's like, "Go on, get out of here." Does that bother you at all when he does that in the movie? Or are you just like, typical coach?
No, it should come from the parents, right?
Right, it feels like. I mean, he's just like, I don't know. He's so creepy, too, because when the doctor comes out, he's like, "We had the surgery." Immediately, you can hear him go, "Is he good to play? Like, is he ready for Friday?" Like, what's the matter with you, man? He just tore his knee apart. Mox leaves, and Darcy catches a ride with him, and they go to the football party where she's going to get dropped off. Darcy's already starting to doubt whether or not she's going to stay with Lance, and their future, which was once very bright, is now not so bright. And she tells him, "Mox, things change. You're the starting QB now." And she changes in front of him in the seat. Mox is trying not to look, but he's like, "I can't help myself." So he catches a couple peeks and then drops her off at the party and leaves. JD, what'd you think of that part of the scene?
Again, okay, so we're getting a big sort of overview of who she is as a character, and there's a lot of arc that we're seeing to her now that we didn't get to see earlier. And then the way that she reacts sort of causes a reaction in Mox, which I like. So, from a writing standpoint, this is a really great job of character development.
Okay. All right, good. And then at the party, Tweeter is approached by some of the local cops. They congratulate them on winning the game. There's like, "We're just checking, make sure nobody drinks and drives." And Tweeter congratulates them on having such cute Mount Me hats. The cop's like, "Mount Me hats?" He's like, "Well, not right away, but at first." And then he apologizes, says, "You know what? I'm going to go home. I've been a jerk. And I'm out of here." And he jumps in their police cruiser and takes it for a joyride. We cut back to Mox, who's at the local liquor store. He gets a 6-pack. The store clerk doesn't check his ID, tells him great game, and then tells him his money is no good here. Tweeter then pulls up in his car, and he's got some ladies with him. Let's take a listen to this clip.
Tweeter? Damn right, Tweeter. They're about as sharp as a box of marbles. But we're all naked in there, and we got handcuffs and cool shit to play with. So take off your clothes and get in the car.
Mox, Tweeter threw my clothes out the window. Will you come keep me warm?
Oh, shit. I can't go with you. But here, I'll give you my jacket. Here you go.
Thank you.
Sorry, Mox, I got a bail. All right. Ladies, shut up and hold on to your nipples.
JD, let's break this down. I guess let's start with Tweeter's ass. I mean, the naked women. They make me wistful. What'd you think?
Dude, those were sophomores.
Yeah, well.
Retract your comment, sir.
You talking about his ass?
Hey,
soft.
I love the way that this could only happen in this town in Texas in 1999 or 98 or whatever we are.
I can tell you that stuff does happen. There's definitely been, I've heard of parties before that have gotten out of hand and police cars get stolen. It's never a good thing, though, when you get the law involved. They do not take lightly to that.
Oh, you're just referencing Can't Hardly Wait episode in our archives. Give it a listen.
Mox shows up outside Jules' house. He talks about how this has been a weird day, very much like riding, a high right now, and he just kind of being the talk of the town. So we cut to the bar, and this is the next day, the next morning, and the sheriff is talking with another guy at the bar. It's the one that talked about the Charmin extra wipe. He says, man, those boys stole a police vehicle. Then they went over to the Alino Club, but there's whiners on the glass. The other guy's like, whiners on the glass at the Alino Club? No, that's no good. And they start complaining, and then Kilmer, who's sitting right behind them reading the paper, is like, my boy's too much for y'all? And they quickly reply, no. And they're, no, they just kids, coach. We cut to the next game, and we see the Coyotes are blowing out the opposition. They're up 60 points. Mox is now starting to deal with some of the celebrity that comes with being the starting QB. They're in the parking lot. He's got to take stuff off his car. Miss Davis pulls up and says, good game, Mox. She drives off in her nice convertible car, and he comments, that's a nice car on a teacher's salary. Can't wait till we find out how she got that car. JD, what'd you think of the second game with Mox?
Dude, he blows them out of the water with that score, doesn't he?
Yeah. It was like 66-3, I think.
That's no joke. That's no mistake. Like Mox has moxie.
Yeah. Then he gives an interview, and after the interview, Jules comments that he's a scary superstar, and he's really enjoying this. And to your point, she's not really enjoying that he's liking this. We have a montage next of the Moxon family putting up their big QB yard sign. And then we see them hanging some press clippings, and then some old guy in the bars hanging up press clippings. And then we cut to practice, and they're working on the hook and ladder. Billy Bob says, is this the play where I trot downfield and act like I'm lost? JD, isn't this every lineman's dream, though? That somebody would run the hook and ladder?
Yeah, I think you're on something there. And there was a play my sophomore year where I was on the kick return team, and the kick returner dropped the ball and it fell in front of me, and I looked at it and I thought, I can pick this up and run for a touchdown.
And then you heard the coach yell, fall on it! Fall on it!
Ball, yep, there it is. Ball on it, ball on it.
Mm-hmm. Now the play doesn't work. Kilmer just loses it. He tells Mox to stick to the basics. Stick to the basics. He's hitting his helmet with a whistle. He tells him it's like, if you aren't the damn dumbest smart kid I know. Billy Bob enters Kilmer's office in the next scene, and let's listen to this clip.
Won't take a minute. You're dragging ass out there, son. And it's fucking up my universe, you understand? You're fat, you're slow, all of a sudden you're lazy. And if it wasn't for you, I would still have my starting quarterback. I'm wondering what happened to you.
My coach, my head.
I don't want no excuses. I want you to fix it. Get out of here. Get the hell out.
JD, what are your thoughts on Kilmer really kind of turning on Billy Bob now?
It seems like it's a long time coming, and I like the way that they build Billy Bob against Coach Kilmer. And, we get to see Billy Bob get his bell rung. We get to see him receive medical care and be denied by Coach Kilmer and to be told, nope, you're good, son. District championship is more important. And, it's all his fault. Like, it's the coach's fault. Like, the coach needs to be more responsible for his players.
Darcy comes up to Mox at school and wants to know what time he's coming over tonight. He tries to play it off. He's like, what about Lance? And she's like, no. This is between me and you. I'm not telling anyone that you're coming over either. So Mox is just like, oh boy, now I'm in it. So the next scene is him in the convenience store trying to buy condoms. And he's got his brother who's like dressed in this black suit, and he's talking about like Salam or something. I can't remember what he's getting into now. He's all over the religion field. So anyway, he's like, yo, what would he do if he had a chance to sleep with Darcy? And he's like, exactly. So his little brother buys the condoms. I don't know why he bought them, but he just slaps them on the table. He's like, Assalamu alaikum. Mox arrives at Darcy's house. She comments on how it's a little weird that he's in her house. And Mox says, yeah, it kind of feels like I'm doing something illegal. Darcy's like, not yet. Then she offers him a hot fudge sundae. And before she leaves, she's like, you want some whipped cream with that? Yeah, you'll have some whipped cream. She goes into the kitchen. You can hear the whipped cream. Like, he turns around to look at the gun rack, which made me laugh because I immediately thought of Wayne's World. He's like, what would I do with a gun rack? I don't even own a gun. As he's looking at the gun rack, in the reflection, we see Darcy walk in, and she's wearing nothing but a whipped cream bikini. Mox doesn't go through it, though. He stops himself. JD, is Mox crazy, or is he just the nicest guy on the planet at this point?
A little bit of both. I think he is a little neurotic, but his heart is in the right place because at the end of the day, he's a nice guy. We know nice guys finish last. And
go ahead. Good song.
You know, I mean, he had to have his little brother buy the condoms.
I still don't understand that part.
He's clearly not ready for this type of tryst.
Nope. I think he would not have lasted long with Darcy. We'll just say that. In the next scene, Wendell and Mox are talking at school. Wendell calls Kilmer a racist fucking redneck. And he says, you know how many yards I'm averaging? Mox's like, I don't know, like 100? He's like, 133. You know how many touchdowns I have? 3. And those were all runs where I broke for over 20 yards. Every time we get down to the goal line, he gives it to Lance on a sweep or gives it to somebody else, and I'm just his workhorse. And then he tells him that Kilmer hasn't picked up the phone to call any college coaches. He's not doing any recruiting. So I got my mom doing my recruiting for me. She got Grambling coming to see me. Damn, Mox, I thought you knew. Mox is like, hey, listen, I'll get you in the end zone. And that's when Wendell's like, you cool, Mox. Darcy comes over to thank him for last night and being so cool about everything. And then she gives him a kiss on the lips, though. Julie is watching from the end of the hallway, and she just enters into her classroom and doesn't say anything. JD, what do you think about the scene here with Wendell? We haven't talked much about him yet.
Yeah, Wendell's, I think his character is very underplayed in this movie. And I think that it's done on purpose to sort of reflect on how much he's taken advantage of by the coach. Like, you know, he is the workhorse. He's the one that drives them from the 40 to the 50 to the 30 to the 20, and then let's let Tom Brady come in and do his little dance and score a touchdown.
Yeah, and one thing I'll add in there, because we haven't talked about Wendell yet, he's played by Eliel Swinton, who actually was a very good running back at Stanford. Had a cup of coffee in the NFL. I actually worked with him for a couple years. Got to go to a company party. Got a couple drinks in him. Told me some behind-the-scenes stories about the cast. I won't talk about the ones that are dead, just out of respect. But there were some good Billy Bob stories. There was an amazing Lance Harbor story that I wish I could tell you. He did mention that Tweeter, Scott Kahn, kind of kept to himself. You know, he's like a classically trained actor, so he's not at all like his character. That's what he said. He's like very straight edge, didn't drink, didn't go out to party with them. The other guys, however, like to have some fun. We'll just leave it at that. And I will tell you the story offline. The next scene here, we're at practice. Mox and Tweeter are talking. He tells Tweeter, make sure everyone's at the mini mart at 10. I'm bringing Lance. Mox goes to see Jules at work, and he tells her there's nothing between him and Darcy. And she's like, so you've never seen her in her whipped cream bikini? Because that's how she got Lance. Mox is like, nope, never saw it. Deny until the day you die. Well done, Mox. Later that night, the guys are at the strip club. The waitress tells them they're on the house all night. Tweeter says, gentlemen, I'm about to go nuts. Wendell's like, hey, you guys know I don't drink. He passes over his shot. Tweeter tells him, nope, not today. You need to relax and look over your left shoulder. He gets motorboated. And then Billy Bob, who just can't help himself, is watching the girls dance. He just stands up and he's like, Major Strip called and I'm here to work. He goes on to the stage, takes off his shirt. They eventually escort him off by giving him a beer. And then Lance thanks Mox for doing this for him and being there for him. He really appreciates everything. And then the stage clears, and we hear some music start playing. It's a teacher song. And we see a chalkboard on the stage. It says sex education. The stripper starts taking off her clothes, finally turns around, is about to start swinging around what the good Lord gave her on the front. And she stops when she notices all the guys from her class are sitting right in front of her. So after her dance is over, Tweeter assures her, Miss Davis, I've been with older women before. The dance was great. I give it 9.5. I still got wood. Billy Bob says, I give it a 10. Fucking 10. They cheers to Miss Davis, and then they exit the strip club early the next morning. JD, we got a lot to unpack here. What'd you think of the strip club scene?
So for what it's worth, dear audience, I've never been to a strip club. I have no idea what the ins and outs or rules and regulations are. I feel that these 18-year-old high school students are breaking a number of rules. I don't think that just because you're a high school football player, just because you're a right guard on the offensive line, and you take off your shirt, you get to dance with women. I feel like he would have been tased.
Yep, can't touch him.
And you can't do what he did, right?
Yeah, the rule is they're called stripper rules. You can't touch them; they can touch you. Yeah, it's very. I don't know which. I've only been to a few in my entire life, so not like I'm an expert here. I do have a membership. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, I mean, you can't do anything that he did.
Yeah, I feel like this whole like scene, while it's like iconic in a lot of ways, it's very ill-conceived. Like it's lazy. It's like, well, why wouldn't they go to? And you have a game the next day. Like I've never gone into a game after a night of drinking. Like the drinking always comes after the game, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. It should come after the game. You're right.
My only thing was pills before games.
Later that night, I mean, unfortunately, they wake up or they leave the strip club and it's in the morning time. So they're playing that night against Elmwood and they are just getting destroyed. Billy Bob comments that he still got the squirts. Damn liquor's in his system. Tweeter says he can't concentrate because he keeps seeing Miss Davis's fat ass bouncing in his face. And Mox tells him to suck it up, and they need to punch this one in. And then the AC/DC song starts to play in the background. And we've got this really cool montage of the Coyotes just getting destroyed play after play. After the game, Kilmer screams that was the worst effing game he's ever seen. And he singles out Mox and says, you poisoned my team, son. And then he flips out on the whole locker room. JD, what'd you think of this scene?
It's a very intense scene. Like we see that Bud Kilmer is kind of psychotic, but now we get to see that in like an even more Nick Nolte Blue Chips kind of a light.
Mox gets home from the game, and his brother enters with Bacon. He's like, what the heck's Bacon doing here? Billy Bob dropped him off, said you know how to take care of him. Mox rushes to find Billy Bob, who is at the football field shooting old trophies with a rifle. He throws them on the ground, then he would say, like, this one was from Pee-wee. I remember coaches making fun of me. Too fat, Billy Bob. Boom. Too slow and dumb. Boom. And he's just, man, this is a really intense scene. Finally, Mox tells him he can't let Kilmer get to him like this. And then after Billy Bob kind of comes out of his rage a little bit, Mox gets the gun from him and then shoots a photo of Kilmer. And Billy Bob yells, fuck you and the horse you rode in on, you son of a bitch. JD, what'd you think of this emotional scene here for Billy Bob?
I think you do a great Billy Bob impression, first of all.
I tried.
This is you succeed, Spatch. Like, this is probably one of the most deep scenes in the movie where we see Billy Bob at his wit's end. He's at the end of his rope. He has a gun. He's drinking. He's out alone in the dark. I think that they're trying to sort of suggest maybe some sort of suicidal type of a moment here, but his friend comes and talks him off the edge. And, you know, we find out later that Moxon is this kind of friend to everybody.
Yeah.
You know, he's the only person that visits Lance Harper in the hospital routinely. He's there for Tweeter throughout all of his ups and downs. You know, like, you know, Tweeter wants to have that gangbang with those 3 sophomores. He doesn't want Moxon there. Moxon knows this.
Yeah.
He's a good friend.
I read that Ron Lester had gotten himself into, like, you know, that dark place for this scene. And then he found out one of his idols died that day was Frank Sinatra. And when he found out Frank Sinatra died, like, he's like, I had no problem crying. He's like, I was so upset as it was, and they just rolled, and I just let it all go. So that's why he's like so emotional. It's like it's true emotion coming out in that scene. It's pretty cool to watch. In the next scene, Mox's dad assures some of the locals that Mox will stick to the game plan. Kyle comes in with his people. His mom says, Kyle, did you start a cult? He's like, yep, these are my people. His dad flips out and says, now that you're healthy, you're going to play football. And he kicks the Colt out of the house. Mox gets a letter and opens it up. It's from Brown, and it says that he's been accepted. His dad doesn't seem to care. He's like, that's nice, but we got to talk about the football game. And Mox just loses on his dad, and he's up telling him, I don't want your life. Playing football at West Canaan may have been the best time of your life, but it's not for me. And it's worth noting here that he did get a full ride scholarship to Brown, which is one of the best schools in the nation. JD, I love that the mom was super happy and the dad just could care less. What'd you think?
I think that it's a great scene, and there's a great parallel between the same way that the mom and the dad react to their youngest son apparently starting a cult. It's, you know, mom is like, oh, you started a cult. That's fantastic. Dad is like, get out of here, you freaks.
The next day at school, Billy Bob is really excited. He reveals that CAT scan. And Mox is like, hold on. Your CAT scan. Oh, you had a CAT scan. That's what you had. Yeah, I went in. They scanned my cat. I'm good to go. They go to enter Miss Davis's class. She meets him in the hallway. And Mox says, you know, we already made a pact not to say anything. Billy Bob has not looked at her face one time. He's staring directly at her chest the entire time. He finally looks up and says, Miss Davis, will you go to prom with me? What'd you think of this scene?
It just makes me wish that I had a teacher like that in high school.
Yes. That's all I can say. In the creepiest way, I was just like, yes.
He's so good.
Mox goes to see Julie next, and he tells her about his scholarship to Brown, and he tells her Kilmer is threatening to fuck everything up. She tells him not to play, or, you know, go play or don't play, either way, whatever. You got the scholarship. He's like, no, it's not that easy. If it was football, I'd just play. But I can't. And he says if he plays tomorrow and they win, Kilmer wins. And then he's going to go on and everybody's going to believe that he's the greatest coach of all time. He goes, what if my brother ends up playing for him someday? Julie asks him if he wants some cheese with that wine. She tells him to go be the hero. You're a football guy. You know about heroes. We cut to the game. They're saying the Lord's Prayer. There's just something about this scene that like gives me goosebumps. Just knowing that like you're about to go to war and you're in there just like you know what's about to happen. You know somebody's probably going to get hurt. It's going to be super physical. And you're all just sitting in that locker room just waiting for them to say, time to go, boys. Strap them up. What'd you think of that?
Yeah, I definitely like the comparison that you make between, you know, sports and essentially war. Obviously, it's not the same thing, but
yeah, definitely
you know,
not.
there's sort of like a you know, a D-Day metaphor to be had when you're playing a team sport and you're gathered around your allies and you look at one another in the face and you say, guys, we don't know what's going to happen next. We're running out of this tunnel. I trust you. You trust me. Let's see what happens.
So Kilmer in the locker room tells him this is 48 minutes for the next 48 years of your life. The game begins and Hero from the Foo Fighters starts playing in the background. I just love that song. Mox takes the field. Kilmer reminds him that we're a running team. Now go fetch me a championship. We have a montage next of Wendell running all over the field. They get all the way down to the 8-yard line, and Kilmer calls a 35 dive. For those of you that aren't football guys, that's a play to the fullback. Wendell says, "Oh, fucking Kilmer." Mox says, "No, we're switching that to 25 dive." Anybody have a problem with Wendell putting one in the end zone? They break. He hands it off. Wendell scores on the next play. They celebrate in the end zone, and he thanks Mox. Gilroy answers right back on the next play. I think they actually take the kickoff back for a touchdown, so they're tied back at 7. And on the next play, Wendell pulls or tears a hamstring and just gets annihilated. The trainer goes to Kilmer and tells him, "Tore something." He's like, "Can you fix it?" The trainer's like, "Yeah, if he'll let us." Kilmer says, "Make him understand." Gilroy scores again. They go up 14-7, and it's halftime. Mox is told to go out and take a knee. They don't want any more turnovers. So in the locker room, Mox opens up the door to the training room. They're about ready to inject Wendell with a needle. Let's listen to the clip.
What are you doing?
He's getting back in the game. Close the door.
Wendell, don't do this.
Hey, Coach, I heard a pop. I think he's hurt pretty bad.
Hey, get out of here. Y'all wouldn't know anything about it. Dedication, team play.
Yeah, I would. Don't do it, Wendell. It's not worth it, man.
You gonna listen to that from a gimp who's praying it will lose so he can be the missing link?
Maybe I shouldn't do it.
Get the hell out of here.
Don't do it.
Don't I lose my temper. Get out. Don't do Wendell. Get out.
If that needle goes anywhere near Wendell's leg, I swear to God on my mother's grave, I will rip your arms off and beat you to death with them.
You stay the hell out of this, Billy Bob. This has nothing to do with you.
This has to do with all of us. We kill ourselves for you. Year-round, we play hurt, we play sick, and we spend most of that time scared that we're going to screw up and you're going to kick our ass because you don't really give a fuck about us. All you care about is your next district title.
Give him the shot.
You give him that shot, you find yourself another fucking quarterback.
You about ready to lose that scholarship, boy?
Keeps that needle out of his leg? Absolutely.
Good.
Fuck it, I'm out.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Finally. Tweeter, you take the snaps.
No, I won't. No, I'm out, Coach.
What'd you say?
I said I'm out. I'm with them.
Only way we're going back out in the fields without you.
All right, get your helmets on. And take the field. Let's go, let's go. Let's go now. Let's go, goddammit!
Man, JD, this might be one of the most raw and the most real scenes ever in a sports movie. I think this is awesome. What'd you think of this scene?
Yeah, just his understanding, Mox's understanding of what's happening and what Wendell is going through and what he has to accept and what the sacrifice that Lance Harbor made by saying just take an injection. It's no big deal. Do it for your team. It's so, raw is such a great way of putting it. It's just when you're in high school, when you're in college, you don't know the limits or the sacrifices that you're willing to go through. And when your coaches put the pressure on you, it's not fair.
And I like that Tweeter stands up to him, Lance sticks up for him, and then kind of the last straw is Billy Bob, and he's just like, that needle goes anywhere near him, I'm going to tear you limb from limb. And that's when Kilmer's like, oh boy, I better back off.
And then beat you down with your arms.
Yeah, I'll beat you to death with them. It's really intense. So next, we see Kilmer exit the locker room. He walks down the long hallway, and we see all those divisional titles hanging from the ceiling. We cut back to Mox, who's going to give this great team speech. Let's listen back in real quick.
Before this game started, Kilmer said, 48 minutes, the next 48 years of our lives. I say, fuck that. All right? I say, fuck that. Let's go out there, and we'll play the next 24 minutes for the next 24 minutes. and we'll leave it all out on the field. We got the rest of our lives to be mediocre, but we have the opportunity to play like gods for the next half of football. But we can't be afraid to lose. There's no room for fear in this game. And we go out there and we half-ass it because we're scared. All we're left with is an excuse. We're always going to wonder. But we go out there and we give it absolutely everything. That's heroic. Let's be heroes.
Who's ready? Get up.
Come on.
JD, what do you think of the speech from Mox?
Fantastic speech. Like, for him to have the moxie to give the speech to the team, and, you know, like, it frustrates me that we only know a handful of players on the team.
Yeah.
Like, we know no defensive players.
Nobody on defense. Nope.
Nobody on defense. And yet he gives this inspirational speech that, like, inspires and rallies them to, like, run out and just, fuck you, Kilmore. Like, we're going to go out on the field and we're going to win for us.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep. The second half kicks off, and we've got some back and forth. Gilroy gets a field goal. They go up 17-7. The announcer says, still no sign of Kilmer. Lance is actually acting as the head coach now, or at least the coordinator. He calls for the oop-de-oop. 4 receivers on the right, Tweeter on the left. We're going to force him to cover Tweeter one-on-one. Mox says, yep, and no huddle. I'll call all the plays from the line of scrimmage. They'll never know what hit him. Mox starts off, completes a pass to Tweeter right away, and then he hits another pass along the sideline, probably like 15, 20 yards. And then on the third one, he goes deep to Tweeter, and they score 14-17. They're back into it. We cut to Kilmer's office real quick where he's packing up some of his belongings, putting them in boxes, and he stops at one of his awards that says Coach of the Year. And I thought this was a really cool shot. One award says Coach of the Year, and Kilmer stares really deep into this. He's kind of out of focus, and then eventually he comes back into focus, and then he just like lowers his head in disgust. I don't know if I've ever picked up on this before this scene, watching it again, but I thought that was a pretty powerful shot.
It is. Like, his own art is sad. Like, there's so many comparisons that we can make to Nick Nolte and Blue Chips in the archive.
So we cut back to the game. The defense comes up with a big stop. Lance calls timeout with 38 seconds to go. Gilroy has to punt. Mox says, if we don't block this thing, it's over. Billy Bob walks up to Lance and says, put me in there. We'll block it. Lance is like, okay, come on, Billy Bob. You're going to play defense now? Put me in there. We'll block it. Okay, go ahead, Billy Bob. He gets in there, lines up, busts through a double team right away, clears a path, knocks another guy out of the way, and Tweeter comes in and blocks the punt. The only thing I don't like about this scene, they don't show what happens to the punt after they block it. They just start celebrating. You have to get the punt still. They could have blocked it and the other team got it and ran it back for 50 yards.
It looks like the ref ends the play right away. Like,
I know. It's very strange. I don't know why they would watch them recover it. That would have been such a dramatic scene. So anyway, Mox calls an out route for Tweeter, and he says, make sure you get out of bounds. So as he throws it, Tweeter's about ready to get out of bounds, but he gets tackled before he can get out. Mox again has to clock it. He's got only 7 seconds left. Again, he knocks over the other team's mascot, and Lance calls for the hook and ladder. So Mox enters the huddle and goes, Billy Bob, this is it. The man who got us here. Billy Bob's like, you don't think that stupid play where I run and act like I'm lost is going to work, do you? Mox calls the play in the huddle. He takes the snap, fires it to Tweeter, who tosses it back to Billy Bob right as he's getting tackled. Billy Bob catches it and starts running toward the end zone. He fends off the first tackler with a stiff arm, splits 2 defenders, and then 2 defenders jump on his back. Finally, as a third one comes crashing down, he falls and realizes he's in the end zone. Coyotes win. The stadium goes nuts. And we're going to end with a voiceover from Mox to end the film here.
It ended without us knowing. Maybe these were the last days. I never played football again. But I will never forget that day. Billy Bob cried because he's a bit of a crier. And Twitter drank beers because, well, Twitter drinks beer. Lance is happy. He found his calling as a football coach. Wendell got his Roddy Grambling. That statue still stands, but only because it was too heavy to move. Kilmer never coached again. I took my scholarship, and I will graduate from Brown University. The day was ours, and no one can ever take it away.
JD, what'd you think on the ending of the movie?
So happy that they win. Like, they really deserve it. They earn it. And Lance Harbor calling the plays, Johnny Mox, like, just, it's so good. Like, it's everything that you want to happen in a film. And then even from Billy Bob, just, it's good. It holds up. 10. It's a 10.
Fucking 10 or 9.5, and I still got wood. Either one. Man, yeah, like I said, going into this, I knew that I was going to love this, rewatching it, doing all these quotes. I feel like if they remade this movie tomorrow, I could show up on set and would know like 95% of the lines. Be like, just put me as Billy Bob. I'm good. I know all his lines.
Put me in, coach.
Put me in, coach. I'm ready to play with my thing. One thing I want to do at some point, and I think I put this on the schedule for November. You let me know what you think about this. We can either do it or not do it. But I want to do an episode where we make a list of our top 10 football movies, rank them, and then play like maybe a clip or the trailer from each one and discuss each movie.
Can we get a top 10? Maybe a top 5?
Top 5, you think? Okay.
Name 10 football movies right now, Kyle. I dare you.
Okay. Varsity Blues, Necessary Roughness. Gonna go with Blindside.
3.
Drawing blanks already. It's not good.
Drawing a blank at 3.
I'm drawing a blank at 3. There's more of them. I swear to God, there's more. Draft Day, Kevin Costner movie.
4.
We should do a top 5 list, JD.
Let's do a top 5 list.
Yeah, I agree. Baseball, we could definitely do 10. Baseball, there's like 20 good baseball movies. Don't make me recite them. I won't remember them.
League of Their Own, future episode.
Sandlot, Archives, Rookie of the Year, coming down the pipeline at some point. Yeah.
Sandlot 2.
Not going to be in there ever.
Ew.
Major League, great movie. Moneyball, great movie. Field
Major
of Dreams.
League 2, Major League 3.
Major League 2 is not bad. Major League 3 is the shits.
Count Bacula, motherfucker.
So let's put a bow on this, man. I mean, I don't know. You said you haven't watched this movie in a while. What'd you think of it going back and rewatching it after all these years?
Totally worth it. Like, if you are a football fan, if you are a James Van Der Bee fan, MTV movie fans, like Green Day, like this is the 90s in a nutshell. So many puka shell necklaces. Watch this movie.
I forgot they were even called puka shell. I had one of those. I think I wore it one time, and then I went to school and like saw myself in the mirror, and I was like, no, that's got to go immediately.
One day I will show you my freshman year college ID photo. My puka shell was so tight.
You like that stuff though. You wear like little wristbands and stuff like that. I can't do it. I'm not. I have trouble wearing a ring. Like I honestly, like I get yelled at all the time by my wife. Why aren't you wearing your ring? I don't like anything on my hands. Definitely not on my neck.
That's what he said.
Yeah. So we're going to be back next week with an all-new episode. We're going to be on the show to discuss the 1994 family sports film, D2 The Mighty Ducks. We'll be joined on the episode by Phantom Dark Dave from Dave's Pop Culture Podcast. You can subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, YouTube for free. Just remember to click that subscribe button and follow us on social media at Back in Time Pod. And you can email us at backintimepodcast@gmail.com. But for now, it's time to climb back into the DeLorean, punch in today's date, and return back to present day. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week.
This episode was a 10! A 10!
Pedro?